The topic for the session is joints and faults. Faults are the fractures along which the relative displacement takes place. If there is no relative displacement on either side of the fracture plane, we'll call it as a joint. From civil engineering point of view, faults are the unfavorable and undesired geological structures at a site. Okay, if we want to construct a foundation for a dam, if there is any fault, it is the undesirable place. Okay, they weaken the rocks and they make the site very bad, very unfavorable place for the construction. The faults are, as long as the faults are active, the site is unstable. The faults are subjected to movements. It may be susceptible to upward or downward or sideward movements. There are different types of faults. One is normal fault, reverse fault and transform fault. When the faults are faults are created due to the tensile force, it is called as a normal fault. When it is due to the compressive force, it is called as a reverse fault. When it is due to the lateral motion, and in particular by means of right lateral motion and in left lateral motion, the transform faults are formed. This sketch shows the fault. This line is the fault. The magnitude of faults, it may be less than a centimeter, or it may occur for more and more kilometers also. This is an example of fault. See here, the fault line is there. These are the smaller faults and this one is a larger fault. The nature of the fault is then it may be a single fault plane occurring, or it may be a number of parallel fractures. The displacement may have taken place by means of shear. The fault plane may be either plane or straight or curved or irregular. Fault plane. The plane along which the adjacent blocks were relatively displaced, that plane is called as a fault plane. When the fault plane is inclined, the block which lies below the plane is called as footwall, and the block which lies above the plane is called as a hanging wall. This is the fault plane. This block which is lying below the fault plane. This is a fault plane. This block is lying below. It is called as a foot wall. This is lying above the inclined plane. This is called as a hanging wall. There are many parts in fault. Slip. It is a displacement that occurring during faulting is called as a slip. It is shown in the sketch. Heave and throw. The horizontal component of displacement is called as heave and the vertical component is called as throw. Faults are classified based upon the type of displacement, movement of both the walls, foot and hanging wall, type of slip and the mode of occurrence. Based upon the displacement, first one is a transitional fault. This type of displacement is uniform along the fault plane. Here in rotational fault, the displacement is not uniform. It varies from place to place. Then coming to normal fault or gravity fault, the hanging wall goes down with reference to foot wall. It is called as normal fault or gravity fault. Then reverse fault. In this kind, if this kind of displacement of the hanging wall is opposite to what I said here in this normal fault, we'll call it as reverse fault. Then types of slip. Types of slip has been already described. You already know very well. When the displacement is along the strike direction, we'll call it as strike slip fault. Here the displacement in this sketch, you can see the displacement is along the strike. So we are calling it as strike slip fault. Based upon the mode of occurrence, it may be radial or nickelon or articulate. Radiating means from a common point all the faults are originating. This is a common point. From this common point all the faults are originating. In Nicholaean fault, the minor faults which appear to be overlapping one another. Here the minor faults are overlapping each another. Then articulate or peripheral faults, a set of relatively minor faults which have curved outcrop. When the minor faults have curved outcrop, we'll call it as peripheral faults. Then coming to step fault, when a set of parallel normal fault occur in a regular interval, we'll call it as step like, it will be like step like appearance, we'll call it as step fault. When it is not in regular interval, we'll call it as parallel fault. This is the sketch showing that parallel and step fault. Hosts. Okay, when normal faults with mutually diverging or converging fault plane occurs, the wedge-shaped block arises. The wedge-shaped block which is displaced upwards is called as host, and which is displaced downwards is called as graben. This is a wedge-shaped block which is displaced upwards. Here graben is displaced downwards. The causes of faulting are, it is mainly due to the tectonic plate movement, that is in particular due to the shear and sliding failures. This sketch shows all the blocks, hanging wall block and the foot wall block, types of faulting also. This is normal faulting, this is reverse faulting, this is strike slip faulting, and a strike is also shown here and dip is also shown here in a single sketch. Thank you.